I want to share some recent news about the Raiders. They have lost a lot recently. First of all, they lost to the Giants on Sunday. The Raiders are now 5-3. Now, I talked last week about Henry Ruggs, the Raiders receiver who got into a fatal DUI crash. So I'm not going to get more into that here. If you want to hear my thoughts on Henry Ruggs, go listen to that from last week. But after that happened, then Raiders corner Damon Arnett posted a video of himself holding a weapon, because I don't want to get demonetized, holding a weapon, and he was threatening somebody with said weapon. So both Henry Ruggs and Damon Arnett have been released from the Raiders football team. They were both first-round picks in 2020. They made bad decisions, and bam, they're gone. You're out of the. I mean, that's how quickly you can lose your entire life. You make a bad decision, it's over. You're gone. And both 2020 first-round picks have been cut by the Raiders. So now, the Raiders did sign receiver Desean Jackson. I would imagine they can use his speed and will use his speed the same way they used Henry Ruggs to stretch the field vertically. But Desean Jackson is 35 years old on December 1st. Like, Desean Jackson is a short-term solution to a problem the Raiders are going to have at receiver. They need a big playmaking receiver. And, maybe Desean Jackson could do that for the rest of this year, but you're going to have to draft another guy. And we have a question on Patreon, from Patreon about that in a moment, but it's just crazy. Remember when the Raiders were 3-0? They were 3-0, they were on top of the world, and then John Gruden, Henry Ruggs, Damon Arnett. The Raiders from here on out have to be careful that they make sure they're drafting guys who are, and I think the term is choir boys, guys who are straight-laced and are not going to struggle with the temptations of Sin City and, Vegas. And if they love to party, don't send them to Miami. Don't send them to the Raiders. I mean, that's kind of, that's really what's got to happen now. Like Najee Harris, the running back in Pittsburgh, would be a perfect fit in Las Vegas because he loves football, loves to work. He's not going to do anything stupid. And unfortunately, Henry Ruggs and Damon Arnett have done some stupid stuff, and their careers might be over. Probably, I would be shocked if both of them made a comeback. So now, Ultimate A wrote in with a question on Patreon. Ultimate A said this: "Hi, Zach. The Raiders released Damon Arnett today, which means the only other high-quality pick that the Raiders got from the Bears for Khalil Mack in the trade is running back Josh Jacobs. Obviously, Gruden made this trade and isn't here anymore. But I can't help but feel like the Khalil Mack trade is a lot like some of the trades that occurred under the late Bill O'Brien's tenure as a Texans head coach, notably with DeAndre Hopkins and Laramie Tunsil. Looking at these trades and considering you did a, quote, redraft of the Giants, would you say there was a combination of draft picks by the Raiders that they could have made up for losing Khalil Mack? What players could they have picked with those picks instead of who they actually picked? Use the power of Zach from the future." So I want to talk about 3 picks the Raiders have made that did not work out. In 2019, they drafted defensive end out of Clemson, Clelin Ferrell, number 4 overall. And oh boy, they overdrafted him. And he did not pan out at all. And he's not from the Bears trade, but it was a big miss. And by the way, here's the problem with, quote, redrafting the Giants is that 2019 was not a great draft for defensive ends. Like, you had Nick Bosa, number 2 overall, and then a lot of nothing burgers after that. And 2020 was also a bad year for corners. So, they just kind of picked positions that weren't great in those years. And they drafted need, but they didn't work out. Like in 2019, first of all, they could have taken outside linebacker Josh Allen, who is a stud now for the Jaguars, had a pick, had an interception, had a fumble recovery on Sunday. So that might have given them an edge defender they would have needed. So by drafting Josh Allen, number 4 overall, rather than Clelin Ferrell. In 2020, they drafted wide receiver Henry Ruggs, number 12 overall. And if I could time travel, as I and every other NFL team could, you would draft Justin Jefferson, the receiver out of LSU, instead. It's crazy. Justin Jefferson went 22 overall to the Minnesota Vikings. And Jalen Reagor, the Eagles receiver, was drafted 1 pick before him. You're like, what? It doesn't make any sense. Somehow Justin Jefferson was the 5th receiver taken in 2020 after Henry Ruggs, after CeeDee Lamb, after Jalen Reagor. Wow. What a ridiculous thought. And So the Raiders also drafted corner Damon Arnett, number 19 overall. So you draft in the 2020 draft. So you would take Justin Jefferson if you could. Now, you need a corner if you're Vegas, and you drafted Damon Arnett. Who else could you have drafted? Because the 6 corners that were taken, 6 by the way, that's a lot. 6 corners were drafted in 2020 in the first round. Pretty much all of them have failed. Jeff Okudah has been bad and injured, and C.J. Henderson was traded. A.J. Tyrell, Damon Arnett is gone. Jeff Gladney got cut after he got in trouble. Noah Igbenogany is a 3rd round, and not like he's like really 5th or 6th because a lot more guys than 2 people would have to get injured to get Noah Igbenogany on the field. A.J. Tyrell, the Falcons corner, is the only guy left standing on the team who drafted him. That's crazy. That's unbelievable. Like, wow. So if I could go back in time, like we always joke about, like I did that exercise. I did redrafting the Giants where I pretended I could time travel. What would I do if I could be Marty McFly for a day? I don't know what I would do if I could be Marty McFly for a day with Vegas in 2020 because like there wasn't a great corner. Like maybe you draft Trevon Diggs, who's killing it with the Cowboys. He gets a lot of interceptions. He also gets beat deep all the time. Like you watch the Cowboys Patriots game. Yeah, like, Trevon Diggs had a crazy good pick 6, and then the very next play on offense for the Patriots, he got burned deep for a touchdown. And you're like, well, like Trevon Diggs, you can't really measure his ability to cover receivers based on his interceptions. He's got good ball skills. He's a former receiver, but gets beat all the time. So the reality is the Raiders' 2020 draft was a failure. Drafting Cleveland Farrell, number 4 overall in 2019, was an abject failure. Passing on Justin Jefferson 2 times in the same draft, that's pretty rough. You had the number 12 pick and the number 19 pick. He went number 22 overall. He's like one of the only players from 2020 that's become a Pro Bowler in that draft. And Josh Allen, I believe, in 2019. So there's someone else in that draft who was drafted earlier than that. I guess, was it Nick Bosa? Yeah, probably Nick. No, Nick Bosa was 2019. Somebody in that draft earlier became an All-Pro. I'm blanking on their name right now. But redrafting the Raiders is tough because they need a corner, and I don't know who they could have taken. Like, I don't know who's available. Maybe you draft Cesar Ruiz, the Saints' right guard, because you can always use another offensive lineman. Maybe Trevon Diggs again from the Cowboys, who gets beat all the time, but at least you'd have turnovers. I don't know. But it's not, like, unlike the Giants, redrafting the Giants was easy because there's, like, very clear, obvious better picks you could have made. Redrafting the Raiders, there's, like, it's just not great. Like they drafted positions that weren't widely available or successful from those draft classes.